Would the paleo diet be a healthy option for us diabetics, specifically looking to lower A1C levels, stabilize blood sugars, and even reduce or eliminate all medications? What are the positives and negatives of this lifestyle based on our true history of mankind? Can this dietary approach be improved upon, eradicating all the complications associated with diabetes? If tailored and modified correctly, the answer is yes, as you will find out today. Welcome to the Resilient Diabetic. This is the channel we turn ordinary, struggling diabetics into extraordinary, well-controlled diabetics. If you are brand new to this channel, I welcome you. My name is Jay Sampat. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that gray notification bell. That way, you will be alerted when new life-changing episodes have been published. And if you have learned something new today, please smash that like button for me. As with all my videos, this should not be considered personal medical advice. This is my interpretation of the latest research. If you want medical advice, please always consult your physician. The Paleolithic diet, also known as the Paleo Diet, as well as the Caveman diet, Stone Age diet, and even rehashed as the steak and bacon diet, refers to the notion that to experience optimal health, we should eat the foods that our ancestors ate. It centers on the idea that eating like early humans aligns with our genetics and genes, therefore optimal for great health. A paleo dieter's food choices are then limited to what could be hunted, fished, or gathered, such as meats, fish, vegetables, tubers, nuts, seeds, and fruits. The underlying theory is that the rise in chronic diseases in modern society stems from the agricultural revolution, which added grains, legumes, and dairy to meals. In the last 100 years, we've added highly genetic altered wheat, engineered fruits that have more sugar in them now than a servings of soda, all the way to refined grains devoid of any nutrients. To the major concern, vegetable oils, also known as industrial seed oils, leading to a whole host of chronic diseases that never really existed prior to the 1900s, such as type 2 diabetes, heart disease, certain cancers, Alzheimer's, obesity, to even some common allergies. Simply put, our bodies haven't evolved fast enough to endure these new modern foods. The overriding question is, how would this diet in particular either help or hurt the health of those of us who are diabetic? Most importantly, our A1C and blood sugar control, and the future complications that affect most diabetics. I do stand by the notion that the diet that shaped our genes, genetics, and physiology in the very first place would tell us something about the diet for which is best suited for us now. Take, for example, what do we feed animals in the zoo? Do we have any ongoing complicated clinical trials studying the effects of feeding lions or even penguins a vegetarian diet of hay? Simply put, the animals are all given the foods approximating what they would eat in the wild, a native diet. If this is relevant to every single creature on this planet, then why is it not relevant to us? Our ancestors were first thought to be highly effective hunters approximately 2 million years ago. Our own species, sapiens, arose roughly 300,000 years ago. Agriculture was not part of the human experience until roughly 12,000 years ago. Would that make buffalo or freshwater trout the new superfoods? Just like any of these new catchy modern diets that keep popping up, money needs to be made and levered through the sale of books, along with gimmicky products like this. Isn't flour a modern processed product? Do you think our ancestors really ate paleo brownies? Either? There was no consumption of milk from mammals, oils, sugars, or even salt, anything that came in a box or bag. Modern meat is not Stone Age meat either. There were no grain-fed cattle to feed the masses, no pig pens, or even chicken coops. So in reality, there were no domesticated feed animals raised without extreme demands on their muscles either. The flesh of animals our ancestors ate was generally quite lean, often with a fat content of around 10% or lower, but it did provide some of the important omega-3 fatty acids. Pre-agricultural diets consisted of wild plants, wild animals, and wild fish, but this was highly dependent upon location, season, hunting and gathering skills, their available tools, and most importantly, climate changes. Obviously, there were no weather channels forecasting droughts, floods, or even pending rainstorms. All animal organs were consumed. Nothing went to waste because the organs, the bones, and other parts of the animal that we discard are also very rich in nutrients. And by the way, insects also provided a significant amount of protein too. The wild or uncultivated plants they had access to provided around 4 times the amount of fiber our commercialized plants that we have today. In the episode, Can Diabetics Eat Fruits?, which I will put in the description box for you, I showed you the wild carrots our ancestors would have found, and they look nothing like what we have today. Our ancestors ate whatever their surroundings could afford them. Life was harsh, and they were always on the move. As weather changed, as herds moved, they had to move. When surrounded by fish or marine mammals, that is what they ate. In tropical habitats, they ate a variety of plants and animal foods. In certain environments, the majority of calories may have come from protein, but a big part of the diet was still high fiber, low carbohydrate based plants and roots. Calling a diet that may have consisted of only protein the Paleo Diet is not quite accurate. Archaeologists tend to emphasize the roles of meat largely because the butchered bones of animals were also likely to be preserved at dig sites. Edible plants were overlooked simply because the remains do not survive or preserve well. What we know now, life was extremely demanding. It was estimated by some experts that they needed as much as 4,000 calories a day to survive that harsh environment. The reality? There were times of scarcity, inconsistency, and a lack of variety in their diet. While the early humans may have been fit and trim, their average life expectancy was in the neighborhood of around 35 years. The naysayers, those against the paleo diet, do have their concerns. A diet of red meat and other sources of saturated fats like butter can raise cholesterol levels. According to them, our primary goal as diabetics is to first control our blood sugars, but the secondary goal is to reduce the risk of heart disease and its complications. First, I am really happy to see and hear newer med students are now being taught heart disease, diabetes, even high blood pressure are all interlinked to one thing: insulin. The older generation of healthcare providers to this day are still only hyper-focused in on cholesterol. This is akin to believing the world is still flat. What should our concern really be? Hyperinsulinemia, or high circulating insulin levels, which cause inflammation. That is the true driver of all the modern chronic diseases we face today. What I care about to live that long, healthy life free of complications is finding nutrients that first and foremost controls insulin. One that not only keeps those triglycerides in the healthy ranges, but raises the HDL, the good cholesterol. And when it comes to the 21st century and the true markers of health, one that prevents the LDL particle from becoming dense, small, oxidized, and deadly. I want you to remember this rule. All diets, regardless of the name, are temporary and will only last for short periods of time. Your nutrition is how you feed and nourish the body over your lifetime. If we wanted to follow the paleo diet and we were diabetic, then what foods would we want to nourish our bodies with? The first extremely positive attribute to this plan is the high value protein it provides to help maintain and build muscle, because it is that muscle that absorbs all of that glucose after you've eaten a meal. The more muscle you have, not only the longer you will live, but the easier it will be to control your blood sugars. And as you age, you need more protein, not less, to keep that muscle. Ideally, you would want grass-fed meats, which contain more nutrients such as antioxidants, conjugated linoleic acid, omega-3s, and vitamins than would grain-fed meat. Fish and seafood are included for your all-important omega-3 fatty acids. Eggs. Eggs are one of the healthiest foods on the planet, as they contain a little bit of almost every nutrient needed. Now, on to fruits and vegetables. And this is where things get a little tricky and modifications need to be made for those of us who are diabetic. Fruits have always been available during certain times of the year. It's a seasonal food. Throughout our history, as humans, fruit has been part of what's known as our scheduled obesity. Fruit, given to us by nature, was intended to fatten us up and help buffer the body for harsh, upcoming, cold winter months. This was part of the natural cycle of life. It was never, ever prior to our modern society overconsumed and continually eaten on a daily basis. Why? Fruit is designed by nature for us to enjoy, to indulge in. It is truly nature's candy bar. I will emphasize this really important point. The design of fruit is to make us hungry and to want to eat more. But you have to also remember, today's modern engineered fruit is bred to be sweeter with far more sugars than our ancestors ever dreamed of. The more you eat, the fatter you get, and the harder it will be to control your blood sugars, all thanks to the secretion of insulin. And as diabetics, we have to account for not only the higher blood sugars eating certain fruits will bring, but the impending hunger and especially the obsessive want to eat even more carbohydrates a few hours after. What about vegetables? I will also emphasize this important point again. Vegetables available to the paleo periods were extremely high in fiber and low in carbohydrates. So the hunter-gatherers did consume a higher amount of dietary fiber. A smart paleo dieter would know better than to spend time worrying about cholesterol levels, but getting plenty of dietary fiber is clearly beneficial. And where would you get this fiber from? Since fiber is usually associated with whole grains. Any grain-free diet seems at first glance to be completely deficient. But this is ignoring that some smart paleo dieters eat more vegetables than some vegetarians. How? Especially for us diabetics, wanting to control blood sugars by adding in copious amounts of above ground, and I will repeat that, above ground, non-starchy vegetables like dark greens, cruciferous vegetables, brightly colored vegetables. But you also want to eat not just the heads, but the stalks at every meal. Cook every part of that vegetable like our ancestors. Nothing goes to waste. What about nuts and seeds? Nuts and seeds are nutritious, but many are high in those omega-6 fatty acids, which can be pro-inflammatory. If your diet does not have an equal balance of omega-3s, then you are in deep trouble with nuts. That will raise insulin resistance and keep your blood sugars from ever normalizing. When it comes to healthy oils and fats, we do have extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, but again, they were not available throughout man's history either. Here at home, I tend to find grass-fed butter one of the best cooking mediums. That is because butter does not oxidize and is very, very stable. So as diabetics, that means less inflammation, insulin resistance, leading to extremely well-controlled blood sugars. What foods should we avoid? For those of you who are just finding this channel, you may be wondering, how did I become diabetic a little over 8 years ago? It was from an autoimmune attack, from eating gluten, from a high-fiber wheat-based cereal. Over time, it not only created severe, debilitating skin reactions and allergies, but over the next few years, my body's own immune system then attacked both my pancreas and thyroid gland, rendering me an insulin-dependent diabetic. The bioengineered wheat we have today is called semi-dwarf wheat. This is a little stocky, high-yield plant, genetically and biochemically light years removed from the wheat of just 50 years ago. It is the proteins in today's wheat, not the carbohydrates, that are causing the problems due to the major changes in the protein structure. These proteins in the wheat cannot be broken apart by our digestive system, and they are looked at like foreign invaders by our bodies. Inflammation is a natural response of your immune system to injury. These longer chain proteins in wheat cannot be broken down and become gut irritants. They're like that paper cut or that splinter digging into the lining of your gut, causing an inflammatory response. If you think that inflammatory response is not happening to you, it is to each and every one of you, but on a smaller scale. So yes, I personally would avoid all wheat-based products, period, end of story. Let's now cover the pros of the paleo lifestyle. First and foremost, you will be eating a clean diet without any additives, preservatives, or chemicals. 2, you will feel fuller longer, not obsessing over food due to the high intake of nutrients, especially the protein and the good fats. 3rd, as insulin requirements start to come down due to eating a clean, easily sustained diet, fat loss will naturally occur. Once satiety kicks in and insulin levels drop, counting calories will probably no longer be required. The big one, Stable, flatline blood sugars means you will feel at your all-time best. Your A1C can easily move into that non-diabetic range. And in my opinion, what is ideal for all diabetics? Between 4.8 and 5.3. Anti-inflammatory benefits from a diet higher in omega-3s instead of omega-6 translates into a body that can fight diseases, injuries, viruses like the flu or the COVID-19. The true fountain of youth is the low insulin requirements that will extend your life and keep you free from complications associated with diabetes. What are the cons and how do we avoid them? Evidence does suggest cutting out all dairy isn't particularly wise, especially grass-fed butter and certain cheeses. A paleo diet may fall short in calcium and vitamin D. This eating plan can be expensive. Proteins are always the most expensive of macronutrients. Packaged products with refined sugars, refined grains, and these cheap oxidized vegetable oils will always be the cheapest. And this is why 52% of the population is now either pre-diabetic or diabetic. How would I put the best attributes of the paleo diet into one cohesive plan? First, all meals revolve around a lean source of protein along with a low carb, high fiber vegetable source. Why lean, you may ask? Because as diabetics, too much fats work against us when it comes to insulin sensitivity. For me personally, the more unnecessary fats in my diet, the harder it is to control blood sugars and remain what is known as metabolically flexible. That means my body can utilize and effectively go back and forth between using glucose and fats. So I always opt for a leaner cut of meat. What did our hunter and gatherer ancestors do? They searched out for what was in season. They tried to get in a variety of plants and other vegetable-based foods too. Today, it is these low-carb vegetables that we do have access to that are the other driver of health. They are the ones packed full of antioxidants, nutrients, vitamins, minerals, along with the right type of fiber we need. As diabetics, that is what we should be focusing on. In a nutshell, these undigestible plant fibers feed the good bacteria already living inside our large intestine. The more food they have to eat, the healthier your gut will be. I want you to type up low carbohydrate, high fiber vegetables in Google and see what that list consists of. It's endless. It does not always have to be our staples like broccoli, cauliflower, and asparagus. Go out to your local grocery stores and even better, the different ethnic stores in your areas and expose yourself to new and exciting variations. Vegetables like rutabaga or even bok choy. The more varied your low-carb vegetable selections, the healthier you're going to be. See what you can experiment with and test your blood sugar's response to each. If you approach this diet with optimal nutrition in mind, and this is especially important for you type 2 diabetics, your blood sugars will be so well controlled and insulin requirements at its all-time low, you may be able to stop taking all medications that you've been on for years, and that would also include high blood pressure and high cholesterol meds too. Why is it so hard for diabetics to lose weight? Does the standard advice, eat less, exercise more, deliver results for people living with diabetes? Or is it a recipe for disaster? I bet you would like to learn more. So, the first link you will see is to subscribe to this all-important channel. The second is the link to the playlist on diabetic weight and fat loss episodes. Have a great and productive day, and we will see you soon with another new episode, which are generally released weekly. Bye for now.